Welcome to ET with GOTB. Testing. Is this thing on? Can you actually hear me? Let's get into the action. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Slightly quieter week this week, Sophie, and that is not solely because I haven't had a voice since Thursday night.
It actually hasn't been that much quieter because you keep whispering.
Well,
so you're still talking.
It's quite hard to not talk.
Yes.
But no, also because we're in that weird period where domestic football starts to melt into the international window, and we've got like that kind of in-between phase. This weekend was, of course, Subway League Cup action. We also had Champions League fixtures midweek as well, which we're going to touch on. And it's also that time of the month where everyone complains about how much they don't like the Subway League Cup, which we're not going to do because that's really boring, because it's here for now, so may as well lean into it. So we're going to run through those results. We're going to look at who is through to the quarterfinals of the Subway League Cup. And we will quickly look back at the Champions League games midweek. And we will have a quick look ahead as well to the international break, which starts this weekend for the seniors, a little bit earlier for the youth groups. And finally, you have sent us in some questions as well. So we're going to try and answer some of them. Before we get into all that, make sure you are subscribed wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening this podcast, and do make sure you're following us across all of our socials as well. We are at Girls on the Ball on everything, and we're on Substack. Okay, you did offer to kind of lead this, didn't you? And I said it was all right, I'd get through it.
Yep.
Do you think
you're a natural?
You do.
I'm not.
Take?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, Subway League Cup results are as follows. Aston Villa 3, Birmingham City 3. Birmingham City win 4-2 on penalties. Nottingham Forest 0, Manchester City 2, Sheffield United 1, Liverpool 4, Newcastle United 1, Everton 3, Sunderland 1, Durham 1. Sunderland win 4-3 on penalties. Portsmouth 2, West Ham 0, Southampton 1, Charlton Athletic 2, Ipswich Town 0, London City Lionesses 2, Leicester 0, Crystal Palace 3, and Bristol City 0, Tottenham 1. The draw for the quarterfinals is taking place. If you are listening to this, there goes the Hoover. Depends what time you're listening to this. If it's Tuesday you're listening to this, then it happens this evening. If you're listening to this Monday, then it happens tomorrow evening. But basically the draw for the quarterfinals is on Tuesday, and it has Manchester City, Liverpool, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham in there. Not for me, not too many huge surprises. I always find it difficult.
A couple of surprising results,
but some because these teams had already qualified.
Yeah, although you would expect like that West Ham team to beat Portsmouth.
You would.
So while there are some surprising, some reasons behind it, I guess you would still expect them to have enough to beat Portsmouth. So yeah, some surprising results. You always like a surprise as well. I think Portsmouth and Crystal Palace coming up big, and Crystal Palace coming up big to get through to the quarters, so that's huge for them. They've not had the best season so far, so that could do massive things for them. I know you said at the beginning everyone hates the Subway Women's League Cup. I just don't understand really what the alternative is right now. We have a problem in women's football where there are too many games for the top 4 teams and too few games for anyone below that. And yes, there's international football to contend with, but actually, the top 4 teams had the weekend off. The ones in Europe anyway had the weekend off, not Manchester City. So it's a way of spacing out and kind of minimising the loading by having this weekend as a League Cup weekend. But I don't really understand the hate towards it. I don't really get why changing it would make it better. I think making it into a knockout, like a straight knockout, then you just like decrease the football for all of those teams involved. I've said before, I think, at this stage, the ones that leave should go into a plate competition in the new year because they are desperately in need of football. And I think we often look through it, I guess, through our lens of whether we can be bothered or are enjoying the football or whatever, but I think there's a multitude of things. I think it needs to be publicised more. I think the league do a really bad job of that at the moment, to be quite perfectly frank. They don't publish, make it known that it's happening. There's no real broadcast going on.
I think there were 2 games on YouTube this week.
So like there needs to be work in terms of visibility of the competition and growing that side of it. But there's nothing against the competition in itself as a concept. It's worked in the men's, I know it's a different like it's not a group phase in the men's side, but that's because men's football is bigger and different. But I don't really see what the alternative is. And I think if you take it out of the calendar, you just have so much space for these teams, like all of the WSL teams and the Liverpool team, like Liverpool, West Ham, Aston Villa. They're not going to be playing
WSL 2 teams?
Yeah. That's what I just said.
You said all the WSL teams. Anyway,
I said
point
WSL
is, it is a very repetitive thing every single time there's a group stage. I have to read about how people hate it, and they always talk about loading without factoring that underloading is also an issue, but that is something that we have touched on before, because it comes up so frequently. So yeah, I just think that a competition needs to be refreshed a little bit and rethought out.
Really, just put energy put into actually making it known about. And I think there's just an assumption that because these teams are playing, people automatically know about. No, we're not there yet in women's football. You need to put in the work to get the visibility up. I also, it's just,
I wonder as well if you're Subway, you're like not really getting much push around it, are you? Like there's not really much coverage.
But it's a bit like, so the Europa Cup now, the new competition in Europe, there's not been much around it whatsoever. There's been maybe a few initial introductions from UEFA, but there's not been much publication, and everything's decentralized for that. So there's no broadcaster, and there's no brands properly involved in it. So until the centralization happens and there's a place for people to access and watch it and understand what's going on, these things don't just grow organically. You need to really push them.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Europe, we had Champions League fixtures midweek. Since the last time we spoke, we had Wolfsburg 5, Manchester United 2, chastening evening for them. Arsenal 2, Real Madrid 1, and Chelsea 1, Barcelona 1, which I think for me was a surprise result of the results for the English teams. Difficult night for Manchester United. They never really seemed to get going. And while Wolfsburg capitalised, I do think United kind of had just a litany of mistakes.
Yeah, Mark Skinner was really annoyed at how they gifted them the goals. That's what he said.
Did someone try to steal mid-game? Is that what happened?
No. Oh. So 6 shots, 5 goals from Wolfsburg. So that kind of shows how clinical they were. And he was just a bit frustrated at how easily they turned it around. I mean, the equaliser, they didn't help themselves. They actually started really well, and they got that wonderful goal through Rolfo. But then, they pretty much let in a goal within a couple of minutes of that one. And it was unfortunate for Safi Middleton-Patel, but she literally passed it straight to Pedamos and she hit it home.
Yeah.
And it was just about the timing, I think. If they'd equalised 15 minutes later, you'd feel maybe a bit less on the rocks, but it was just those momentum swings in the game and just giving up the goals. And I think they used up so much energy in that first half, bringing themselves back to 3-2 just before half time. And then it just all sort of petered out. And because they have a thin squad and because they've been playing a lot of football and they're stretched, I think that just, you saw the kind of energy sap out of them.
I think what's good for Manchester United is that they have done well up until this game, and they're sitting 5th in the table on 9 points. So, certainly well within that at least qualification window. And we always knew it was going to be tough given the teams they had up against them. So plenty of learnings for them, but I just think the frustration, as you say, for them will be the manner of a number of those goals that will frustrate.
Yeah, but they're qualified.
Yeah.
They're through to the next phase, and that's immense, for the first time in their history.
Arsenal 2, Real Madrid 1. This game felt a bit like Groundhog Day up until Arsenal getting the winner, because it just felt again that, they were creating, they were doing enough, they were not scoring the goals, rinse and repeat.
They played really well. And I was watching a bit of the first half while I was waiting for the press conference, and they just kept not taking their chances. And then the second half, Alessia Russo just came to life. And what a quality player she is. She's just absolutely immense. And I think it was one of those games that they just really needed to get over the line. Given their recent run of form, to get that, they're now within touching distance of maybe not the top 4. I think that's probably out of reach, but certainly the first pack of seeded playoff places. So I think They will, because they've now got, they've got FC Twente and Leuven to finish out, and they'll be probably quite confident that they should, against those teams, they should be. They definitely have got their harder games out of the way.
Yeah, that's fair to say. And they did have tough games. That's the whole point of this format of Champions League, is that we're seeing much tougher games much earlier on and a higher frequency of those games. They're down in 10th on 6 points, but as you say, they've got 2 more games that they will hope to finish off well on, but we shall see. We will be at the one in Leuven, won't we?
And Twente.
And Twente. Gosh, going to be busy.
I mean, that's at Meadow Park.
That's true. Which has been interesting, actually, watching Champions League back at Meadow Park, because I struggle to understand how it meets all of those Champions League requirements. But
I think they've done a lot of work to make it meet. I just don't think it's a suitable venue for an elite football match.
I will say, as a photographer, they have pretty much halved the amount of photography space, so that's not ideal.
The press box, I'm not sure, is particularly safe, but we'll keep an eye on that one.
Finally, Chelsea won, Barcelona won. I think this may have been where my voice went. I don't know if you guys noticed, about 25, 30 minutes in, there was a massive technical fault at the stadium.
I think they probably noticed.
Well, if you're watching on TV, you would have. If you were there, not necessarily, because I had a lot of people behind me going, what the hell is going on? Initially, the TV screens, big TV screens went which I find really helpful. I'm down one end to actually see what's going on. So that went. Didn't really think that much of it. And then the ref's whistle went, and it transpired, and what kind of came filtering through slowly, because obviously there was no comms in the stadium to be able to announce what was happening, was that all of the comms, the technology, VAR, ref comms, everything went down.
All of our TVs and
the broadcast went down. All of the broadcast went down, which is a huge issue. And there was quite a bit of confusion initially. But
I just had this vision of this engineer running around Stamford Bridge trying to find the fuse that had gone and the blown. Or
someone had flicked off the lights on the way home.
I remember at work, we had like a 8-story office, and one day we all got sent home because someone had plugged a lamp into one of the plug sockets, and it sent the whole system out. So you can just imagine putting in like the
someone plugged in a Christmas tree and it just straight like that. Well, apparently, and I hadn't been aware of this, I was also connected to the system in Stamford Bridge, because after that game, my voice was gone. Pretty much went. I tried to film a video initially to say that, and nothing came out at first, so I had to refilm it. So this is the best I've sounded since Thursday, where I've pretty much had no voice, but there was plenty of excitement on the pitch. A very impressive performance from Chelsea, I thought. I think many were concerned about this game, as is often the case, because it's Chelsea-Barcelona. They haven't got a great record against them, particularly last season. And I think the way Chelsea have been playing and some of the results they've had this season in terms of dropping points and drawing games what they would expect to win. So I think there was a little bit of nervousness around that. I felt like a lot of Chelsea fans were kind of like, if we lose this game, it's not the end of the world. And actually, they played really well.
I think they'll be disappointed they didn't win it.
Yeah, and I actually thought, I found Barcelona unusually, or kind of, it's not in their nature to be quite so passive.
I don't know. Sonia Bonpastor got her tactics spot on. I think she played it perfectly, and they completely marshalled Barcelona's midfield out of it. Kira Walsh was literally following Aitana Bonmati around like a shadow. They were very aware that Catacol wanted to try and draw them out, so they just didn't jump. I know you hate it, but it was a tactic, and Chelsea were very, very aware of it.
For Catacol, it wasn't working, so stop doing it. Yeah. I was getting
they just weren't jumping.
Bored of, no offence to Manchester City of old, not this season, but previous seasons. It just reminds me of that foot in the ball, standing on the ball, and you're like, sorry, is it a free kick? Is the game in play? What's happening? I was like, kick the fucking ball, and I got what she was trying to do, but Chelsea were clearly
not jumping
throughout the whole game, super disciplined and not jumping. So stop doing it.
Yeah,
I felt like for a team who normally play
they didn't
such
really adapt
football,
well, and they looked really frail at times on the transition. Like Alyssa Thompson was running wild through the defence. Paredes is a brilliant defender, don't get me wrong, but she hasn't got the best pace anymore, and she was kind of being exploited, I guess, by the pace of Chelsea's front line. and they were hitting them well on the transition, and they should have had more goals. And Ellie Carpenter, she had a brilliant first goal, but by God, will she be still having her head in her hands about that second opportunity, because she should have scored that.
That first goal, I was watching through the lens, and firstly, nobody engaged with her. She just like ran for ages, took off. And then I saw her take it through my lens, and I was obviously shooting from behind her, and I thought to myself, it's gone wide now, because the ball had gone out here. And then suddenly it came back in, and I was like, what? It was like
a superb finish.
Bending of gravity. Unbelievable goal, especially when I watched it back. Yeah, they'll be frustrated because they did have opportunities. But actually, I think as well, you have to factor in Barcelona fairly confident that they're going through in this as well. So, and they're struggling.
But it's still more than a bit of a game, I think, between these two. There's a pride element to it. So I think that's why Chelsea will be disappointed, because it was their chance to win their second game against Barcelona.
Yeah, and I also think it'll be a nice, despite it being a draw, a nice kind of confidence boost for Chelsea as well, to be like, okay, we've had a bit of a, maybe not the best start to the season, but our not best start to the season is still second and still.
I just think tactically they were brilliant.
Yeah. It does mean that Chelsea are in 6th on 8 points, so just behind Manchester United, with a couple of games to go. Roma and my brain's gone. I'll challenge you. You'll tell us, I'm sure you will. As soon as I look back on this, as soon as we press finish, I'm going to immediately know who the other team is they're playing. Lyon? No. Okay.
It's United, Lyon, and Juventus. Chelsea, Roma, and something else, or Twente and Leuven. Why is it the one I can't remember?
Benfica? Oh, might be big and little. Okay, international window is upon us. England take on China on Saturday and Ghana on Tuesday. We'll be there for those. Under 23 Soph have some games as well this week.
Yeah, they're playing European International against Norway at the Academy Stadium on Thursday evening. I'm hoping to be there. So that's a European one, and then they've got a friendly against the USA in Accrington the following Monday, and I can't be there for that one because we're going awarding.
Yes, we are. We've got the Football Supporters Awards, the FSAs, in which Sophie is nominated for Journalist of the Year, and we're also nominated in Women's Sports Media of the Year. So that's Sports Media, Women's Media of the Year. So that's cool. Okay, Republic of Ireland face Hungary in a behind closed doors game in Spain. I'm sure Cara will be using that to do some tinkering ahead of big fixtures in the new year.
She's got Courtney back.
So yeah, that's big. Scotland face Ukraine and China in friendlies. Wales face Korea Republic and Switzerland. And Northern Ireland are taking their international window off because Tanya Oxtoby has now gone to Newcastle. So she is now no longer the Northern Ireland manager.
That's not why they're having the window off, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they had no fixtures scheduled.
That blows my mind.
So, I assume.
It's just not the most...
That she left in the last week and... the window should have been prepped.
It could have been something she'd been planning for a while, but you don't know. I do think that's mad, though, for a country that's trying to grow its game to just skip windows isn't great.
I think she's done a brilliant job with them in terms of the resources that she's had. She's overseen a bit of a transition in terms of bringing younger players through. They needed that after that European campaign, I think, Euro 2022. And it's a work in progress, but there's not a lot of resource there. There is not a strong domestic league. There is a lot of work to be done, and I think they need to think very carefully about who they're going to take on next as well.
Yeah, I know she had to do a lot of work behind the scenes as well. It wasn't just on the pitch, and it was a job she enjoyed in terms of relishing the challenge. And I think Newcastle is a great next step for her, and vice versa for Newcastle, a good signing for her. So I'm excited to see how she gets on. Okay. We're going to move on to some questions from you. Thank you for sending them in. We've picked a few. We're going to start with India Femme Footy on Twitter. What's your take on the NWSL girls at Chelsea performing so well? Is it due to the difference in quality of leagues? I wouldn't put it all on that. I would say that they are very, very good players. They are players Chelsea went for because they are some of the best in their positions in the world. So I think wherever they end up playing, they're going to play well because they were some of the best in the NWSL. Now they're some of the best in the WSL. Go on.
I saw this last week. It created a bit of a battle on Twitter, if I'm not wrong, between the NWSL fans and the Barclays WSL fans, and there was this whole drama about which league is better and all that stuff. I don't think it's down to the leagues. I think it's, we've seen players from the WSL go over to the NWSL and perform brilliantly, like Esmond Morgan this season, and Jess Carter's been playing brilliantly for Gotham. And Katrin Berger. So it works both ways. I think there are different qualities to both leagues. They're very different in the way that they approach football and the styles, and there's nothing wrong in that. And I think, just going back, maybe a bit of a side note, but when you think about Brazil, England last camp, and Australia, England, no, more Brazil, because they are a bit more of a transitional team. And, a lot of the Brazilians do kind of play in North America or around that area. I think that's why she went for Jess Carter and Esme Morgan, because they're used to that kind of play. But that was a side note. I think you're just looking at, for Chelsea in terms of Goma, as you said, and Thompson, two really, really brilliant footballers, world-class footballers. They're very, young, got a lot of a career ahead of them, but they are in the US national team because they are the best of the best, and they will develop a lot in Europe as well. I think there is a bigger question about why NWSL talent is coming to Europe and what that means for the NWSL, the future of the NWSL. You've also got the USL kind of rivaling it out at the moment, and the rumours that, they're offering, DC Power offering Trinity Rodman more than the NWSL clubs are. Kind of there are, things to iron out in terms of the American League, but that's not to say it's not a brilliant source of football.
I think as well that you can see from players who've played in both leagues that they develop because they've played in both leagues and they've been exposed to different types of football. And I do think whether it's going from WSL to NWSL or vice versa, I think the player only improves as well.
I think it also hasn't always worked. We saw Rose Lavelle come over here.
Yeah, and I think that's
she struggled a bit, and Rose is undoubtedly one of the finest footballers of her generation, but she just couldn't adapt, I don't think, really to the City style of play. So it works and it doesn't work, and it just depends on the kind of player that you're getting, the individual, rather than, I think, a kind of synopsis of the whole leagues in general.
Thank you for that question. Next up, Tim Rogers on Twitter. If all the excellent WOSO podcasts released 66% of their content simultaneously at, say, 12 o'clock on a Sunday, could this affect listening/viewing figures? Asking for a friend who is entirely unconnected with any sports broadcasting organisation.
See what you're doing there, Tim.
So I think Tim may be alluding to the article that The Guardian released today about the significant drop in viewership of WSL fixtures, particularly some of the big hitters, your Arsenal, Chelsea's, etc. I haven't got the exact figures to hand, but
like
they were down into kind of
000.
75,000 viewing the Arsenal Chelsea game, which is wild. They said, what was it, 52,000 live or something like that, which was less than how many were in the stadium. And it's just this kind of snapshot of where we are with kickoff fixtures and how the timings and the approach that broadcast has taken is impacting figures. And, arguably, unsurprisingly, if everything is on at the same time, it's going to have less people viewing it. If it's on early on a Sunday, for obvious reasons, it's going to have less people viewing it. And if it's behind a paywall, it's going to have less people viewing it. Because I think the comparison was, when it was free to air on BBC last year, it was something like 600,000 or 700,000.
300.
Isn't that 600? I thought it was 600.
Maybe.
Point is, significantly higher. And it is not surprising that the viewerships are down. But I do find it intriguing because it's, the amount of money they're pumping in and they want to carve out a spot, but currently it's not working. I
think there is a big problem in terms of fixture times, and I think there is a hope potentially within the league and the broadcasters that, you set a time and eventually people will conform to it. I do think there's a proper problem with a 12 o'clock kickoff, especially on a Sunday. I think, especially in a sport like women's football, where people they follow their teams, but there was also wider interest in the league. And that's not to say, like, you watch Premier League and you'll sit down on a Sunday and you'll watch any Premier League game that's on. People do that, but I think there is a real core interest in the league as a whole. So I think Arsenal supporters will not follow another team, but watch another team because they like a certain player, or
Chelsea City, right, and you're like, I want to watch that. Yeah.
And I think at the moment, when the majority of fixtures are on at 12 o'clock, there is a real lack of building knowledge about the league as well, because you can't see as much football. You kind of if you're either at a game or you're sat watching a game. And I know they've tried the multi-view. I personally don't like the experience of the multi-view just because it doesn't suit my kind of brain where I need to be concentrating on one game.
But also you're not then giving 4 games the same attention, are you?
And so I do think, and I think there is a bit of a loss of momentum because, you know, you used to be able to maybe have one on a Friday night, one on a Saturday, one on a Sunday lunchtime, and then one in the evening. And you know could pretty much cover off 3 or 4 games and have that momentum throughout the weekend about the league. And at the moment, it's kind of like 12 o'clock on a Sunday. You might have a 2 o'clock kickoff, but pretty much by 2:30, you're pretty much done with the league. So I do think that's a problem in terms of access as well. Like if it's not like a regional fixture, like Arsenal, Liverpool. If Liverpool are playing Arsenal at the Emirates at a 12 o'clock kickoff, those fans trying to get down either have to leave like ridiculously early in the morning, or they have to fork out to stay the night. And then that's relying on them to have cars and buses because the train system in this country is useless. So, like, I think there is like fundamental problems, and I don't think just like hoping that the problem will just go away is going to work.
No, and I think this is what's going to be interesting is the reaction to and response to it, right? Because I've always said I'm open and willing to try new things, and if they don't work, we don't do them. So it's whether that continues on is going to be interesting, because I haven't seen many positive responses to 12 o'clock kickoffs on a Sunday with at least 4 or 5 games happening at the same time.
I've seen a lot of people on social media. I know that's not like a proper like indicator, but a lot of people saying they're feeling quite disconnected from the league at the moment because they're not able to watch as much football.
I'm the same. It's actually harder to cover this season, much harder to cover this season. Okay, Flops on Twitter always asks great questions. Has asked 2 questions. The first, what's your guys' favourite fizzy drinks? Flops does like to pose some thought-provoking questions. I don't really drink a lot of fizzy drinks, but we are both currently drinking a Diet Coke, aren't we?
Yeah, Diet Coke is kind of mine.
I think my preferable fizzy drink is generally of a wine variety.
That doesn't count.
Bubbles, or it says fizzy drinks. It doesn't say pop.
Bubbles.
It could be a sparkling wine. Champagne, very partial to a champagne. I will drink Prosecco if needs be. You're getting into the fizz, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll drink it.
See, the fizz, you'd call it fizz.
But yeah, if I'm going with, I think, what is the question, I'll go with Diet Coke. It's just a simple one that I kind of need one at least.
Yeah, you're a proper Diet Coke fiend. I don't drink that much of it. Okay, but the actual question, what ground does the best press box food? Now, this is a great question.
This is tricky.
Because it really varies. Some grounds, which shall remain nameless, we struggle to get toilet paper in the press toilet, and you could go back the following week and it'll still be gone. So expecting kind of any sort of gourmet is not happening. There's sometimes biscuits, they don't last long. Tea, coffee, water if you're lucky. But there are some, and actually, because it is different for photographer and journalists sometimes, isn't it? Arsenal are probably
so Arsenal do a brilliant breakfast. So for a 12 p.m. kickoff.
Well, okay, hold on. There is a plus, and this is the plus of the 12 o'clock.
You get breakfast. So they do it, but if you happen to have a 1:30 kickoff, you switch into lunch. So you get to the stadium at like
half 11,
11 o'clock, and they're serving lasagna, and that's just all kinds of wrong. So that's a big negative in Arsenal.
However,
but the big plus is the breakfast, hash browns. Brilliant.
But lasagna is a very nice meal to serve. To be
not
fair,
at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Given comparing to other clubs,
and at least it's there. But yeah, it's just
food.
Need to think about the timings.
There's sometimes dessert in there. We don't get dessert. There's sometimes dessert in the journalist.
Chelsea do okay.
Chelsea are good. Some can be hit and miss sometimes. Sometimes can be great. And you'll go in and they'll have like a whole set of stuff, and they'll have like desserts that have waffles, or they'll have like custard and crumble or something like that. Yeah. So you get a decent meal there, and we're all in the same room.
Also all changes if you're like at the main stadium compared to like you're not getting that stuff at Kings Meadow.
We are getting a little sandwich bag at Kings Meadow.
Man City, you do get a really good array of sandwiches at Man City when it's at the Joy Stadium.
Yeah, crisps and pick and mix.
Pick and mix. The pick and mix is the best thing in the world.
That's big.
When you get to the Etihad as well, you get a proper pie mushroom situation.
Can I touch on the Man City?
Hungry.
The Man City photography room. is called, I think,
Rose's
room. And I don't think she's there anymore. I'm not 100%. I don't want to get that wrong, but she looks like someone who's been there a long time, and she has a room named after her. But you go in and there's always someone there dedicated to looking after you. So as soon as you come in the door's not even closed. You want a mug of tea, and there you've got a mug of tea poured in a proper mug with your milk and whatever else. There's biscuits, there's sandwich bags. I had what did I have? The cake. What's the cake called? Was it an Eccles cake?
Oh yes,
it's like kind of like a Victoria sponge with icing on top. I think so. I had one of them. A barm sandwich, basically like a roll thing. I was learning all this stuff. So if it's in the Etihad, you get that, which is very nice. And yeah, it does vary from ground to ground.
Everton do a good chili at Goodison Park.
Yes, and which they generally always are at. So it does vary. Wembley for me, shite.
Wembley for me, brilliant.
A lovely multi-course, like all sorts of business.
I mean, sometimes it's a bit rough, but can't complain. But there's like a salad bar, there's like a hot bar, and then you get like cookies at half time, and you get Haribo, the little packets of Haribo just there whenever you need them.
And I get a £5 voucher for the staff canteen.
I sometimes bring you down a cookie, don't I?
Yeah, well, you've just tried to complain about your meal, so yeah, that's what you get there. Some of them, Bournemouth used to do a sandwich bag. Now they just give you like a £5 voucher for the burger van, which A, I don't really want, and B, I can't. It's not going to buy you a burger. B, like I don't have time to queue up with the 900,000 fans that are queuing up for it either. So it does vary, but that gives you.
It's been a very extensive.
It's the best question. Okay, Mia Barlow on Insta. Oof. Do you think Millie Bright is now out of the Chelsea first team? I think it's kind of hard to pick the bang on Chelsea first team because they've been the team that have changed their starting lineup the most this season.
I think it's going to get a little harder, and there's never going to be anything definitive about it, I think. But I think you looked at the way that back line performed, the back three performed against Barcelona, and the way that they handled them. I think Goma, now that she's fit, she's probably a starter if she can stay fit. Lucy Bronze seemed to be making a quite good right-sided centre back, and is supporting Ellie Carpenter on the right wing back. And then Natalie Bjorn, I just think she's an absolute class player. So it's going to be hard to shift any of those three, I think. And the problem for Millie is that her form at the start of the season has not been brilliant. So she needs to do a bit of work to get herself back to the levels where she was there, but you do worry about her a little bit. Her pace is a little bit gone,
which is
I think.
Natural, I think.
Yeah, she's getting older. It happens to the best of them. So like it's just
it's hard at Chelsea as well.
It's going to be hard.
They're consistently bringing in such top quality to challenge everyone. So,
but she does rotate. So
yeah. And Millie wants to be there because it challenges her to be her best self. Mm-hmm. So, right, next up, Jacobson623 on Instagram. What is going on with Dan at London City Lionesses? Is it injury? Yes, she came in injured. And I don't think we got the exact extent of what her injury is, but it is worth reminding you that injury recovery is never linear. And sometimes it might not be that big an injury and they could be coming back and then something small knocks them and they're back for 2-3 weeks on the sideline. So that can be difficult. I mean, you look at Cole Palmer, who was almost back and he's after stubbing his toe or whatever. Like, it's amazing the small things that can just set you back. And given the quality and the depth they have in the squad, there's no urgency to rush her back. Because you rush someone back, you could end up there.
Jocelyn has spoken a lot about not wanting to rush his players back. Yeah. He's got enough players to be able to cope with the not having her. They need it, like, the best Dan is a fit Dan.
Yeah.
And there's no need. They've got a good midfield at the moment. They've got enough in that midfield.
Right. Okay, geraniums and guinea pigs on Instagram. What do Manchester United need to do to get back on track? That's a great question. I think at the moment they've had to ride out a tough couple of weeks, just purely in terms of the amount of fixtures and quality of opposition, which is always going to happen when you want to be in Champions League. And I think they've actually done all right to a degree. I think getting to the winter break is key. And getting in some new faces is key.
Yeah,
I think everyone back fit.
You can tell from what Mark Skinner is saying how much he knows that they have to buy in January. He literally now pretty much mentions it every press conference.
To be fair to him, it's because he's fucking asked every press conference.
No, but even like I was the only one in the press conference in Wolfsburg, and I didn't ask it, and he came out of it with his own volition. So he was basically like, we know we need to strengthen in January, and he said he's using this international window to make sure that they get, those signings through the door, because it's really important if they want to go far. Obviously, I know I said earlier they've reached the next round. Not necessarily, I'll correct myself, because they might have to go through playoffs, but it's still further than they've ever been before.
No, but if you get to the playoffs, you've reached the next round.
I guess. Yeah.
You have. The next round is playoffs.
It's just playoffs.
Because you can not make the next round and you don't make anything.
They're not going home.
No.
So I think if they want to compete in whatever stage of the competition they enter at next, and to continue to try and compete in the league, I do think it's going to be really tough for them now.
Yeah.
But they need bodies in, and they need high quality bodies in. And I know people have said, well, why is he not rotating and playing the younger players? And I am very much an advocate of playing younger players, but I do think you need to be comfortable that they're at a level to perform in.
Yes, and that was what I think previous seasons have been for, when you've not been in Champions League, but you have been in League Cup, and they're the moments you give players minutes so that when they get thrown into the deep end because someone's gotten injured, it's not as massive of a jump or as big as a worry, or there's less developed relationships there. That's what those moments were for, and I think they've perhaps skipped that in previous seasons, which is
I guess where I do kind of agree though is when you're 5-2 down against Wolfsburg, you're not winning that game, so throw them on and see what can happen, and they might be able to pull a goal back, so and give them that experience. So I guess there's that balance we have. I'm kind of disagreeing with myself there. So happens a lot.
Someone has to. I can barely speak. Last question was from Rona, who asked, has Rachel's voice come back? So hopefully this tells you sort of kind of
on the way there.
It is. Okay, that is a wrap then for us for this week's episode. We'll be a little bit later next week because we felt like we'd rather wait until after the second England game before we do a bit of a wrap up. But we're going to be hopefully doing something a little bit extra during December, which you won't miss if you're subscribed or you're following us across our socials, because we're going to try and do a bit of a December wrap-up content push throwback with some extra stuff and extra features. So make sure you're tuned in for that. Otherwise, we'll hopefully do a live at some point this week as well. So tune in for that. Chat to you very soon.